Welcome. My name is Annette Tarpley. I am the founder of the Passion of Poetry, and this is Pop Chat. And with me tonight, I have Stephen North, but it's not Stephen North. It's Stephen Alexander North.
Yes.
So I told him we just met a couple days ago, and we've chatted quite a bit, but he's got a great name, Stephen Alexander North. And I asked him, I said, is that a pen name? He said, no, that's my real name. So great name, Stephen.
Well, thank you.
Love that name. We already have 2 comments. We've just been on for 2 seconds. So that was a very long intro video because you've been prolific with your writing. You have all kinds of novels out there. So kudos to you. You are living my dream. You stole it from me, Stephen.
No. You're doing quite well yourself.
Well, I'm in my own little, pop world. So, but what I want to do was we want to learn more about you. So I want you to tell the audience about Stephen or Steve and let us know whatever information you want to divulge,
Okay.
personal, writing, whatever. Just, let your hair down, let it run loose, and tell us about you.
Okay. Well, I will. I'll just read you the back of my latest book, and then if you want more information, I'll go for it. Maybe tell you one other thing. But I'm a Florida native. I jokingly call myself a closet lounge singer. I am the obscure Floridian writer of sci-fi, horror, thrillers, fantasy, and poetry. I have a Bachelor of Arts uh, in English literature from the University of South Florida. I formerly served many years ago in the Army Reserve as a military policeman, if any of you are curious. And I worked in retail management for 35 years total. It's probably more like 33 because some of the time I wasn't a manager. But and if you're curious, it was Home Depot, Moz Brothers, if you remember them, Walmart for their greatest amount of time. And I did have the joy of working in a bookstore once. I've worked in a print shop. That was a part-time job. That was going okay until one day I almost fell into a press. And, suddenly I had lost complete interest in that line of work. So that's the highlights of my working career. My writing, I wrote my first short story in 6th grade at Riviera Middle School, for any of my friends that might be watching. It was in a Spanish class, believe it or not. The guy asked us to write stories. And anyway, I kind of went from there. And I guess this is worth mentioning due to what happened. That in 1989, I was to the point where I'd submitted one short story and had it rejected. My prose was too high flown for this magazine's readership. That's what they said. I think I still have that rejection letter somewhere. But I was reading J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion at the time, and it really influenced me. And I'm sure that's, there's more than a little hero worship going on there when I tried that story. And anyway, my brother died in the Marine Corps in 1989. And for roughly 12 years, I gave up on anything that mattered in my life that I was formerly passionate about. I just lost all desire. And the reason really that I'm bringing this up is that I know that a lot of people out there, all of us really go through grief sooner or later. You lose somebody you love. And the thing that's really sad is, and I never got counseling in that time period, but I didn't ever think it through. And the pain I was going through, that my brother would be very upset with me that I gave up on my dream and that I literally, other than being a father and a son and a friend to some people, I didn't have much left. Um, but I had this realization one day. His ghost literally saved me. I remembered his love and how disappointed and he would be with me that I gave up. And so this is wrapping it up. I vowed to write a novel before I was 40. And if I had to, I would self publish it. But I tried to get publishers. I didn't try very hard, though. I wasn't one of these people that I wasn't J.K. Rowling sending it, that many times with all those rejections.
Did she
Um,
have
I,
a lot of did she have a lot of rejections?
oh God, yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that when, it's not just us, the famous people, get
Yeah,
rejections. Yeah.
yeah. I tried with two different agents, and anyway, I started to get a little nervous that I wouldn't fulfill my promise to Ron, my brother, and myself. And I went ahead and self published it with what I would call, especially back in the day, a vanity press, which means I paid them. And uh, it ended up ultimately being a successful book in that I sold enough copies to people on my own, not through Amazon, not through
Right.
Author House, which was the name of the company, um, that I came out ahead. And I actually later on had made enough money that I went to a couple of conventions, and I had a publisher then at that point with my second book. So anyway, there you go. There's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if I left a good spot or if there's.
No, you're good. You're good. And we were discussing last night, and you said that at one point you were with Simon and Schuster, which is a huge publishing company. I'm sure
Well,
most people have heard of them.
yeah. My publisher, Permuted Press, was connected to them,
Hmm.
and I had high hopes that it was going to lead to something, but it really no.
Yeah.
So it's like, although if you looked me up on Simon and Schuster, I still might be in there. I don't know if they took me down since my contract's up with Permuted Press. But
Well, you should have
I
been
was
you
listed
should
in
go
their
down and
catalog.
you would do what? I'm sorry.
I was listed in Simon and Schuster's catalog, but
See, look at
I
that.
wouldn't. Yeah, but I wouldn't want to portray myself as a big shot.
Yeah, well, supposedly they, were trying to contact me, but I don't know if it was really Simon Schuster or if it was some scamming thing, so I never pursued
I
it.
really think you should pursue that a little bit, though, because
Well, we'll
being
see.
with them would be, I would think, a coup.
Yeah, I got a couple good offers from agents. One was more lucrative than the other. Like I thought they said I got all the royalties. Is that possible? No, I don't know. I don't know.
Uh, I
Um,
would be surprised that any publisher, unless they were a very good friend, would give you all the.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's interesting because and as we were talking last night, I think we were talking about relationships and stuff, and you were lucky enough to have a wonderful lady in your life, and I remember mentioning to you it's hard to find a man that will appreciate your writing unless he too is a writer. I think when you write it and you're passionate about it, unless somebody else shares that passion, it sometimes is difficult. I think, and your girlfriend shares that passion.
It makes it easier when we both want to write. So
Yeah, yeah. And
it's
I
more
think
of a.
did you say she was it she that wrote 5,000 words the other day or something?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
She's quite prolific when she's not exhausted from being a teacher.
We have a couple. Oh, what does she teach your girlfriend?
She is currently a history teacher, but she
Oh,
can
cool.
also teach geography, and she works at
Nice.
a high school.
That probably comes in handy in her writing. That knowledge, I imagine.
Yeah, hers have a historical type element in that she draws on like Irish legend.
Oh,
or the
I love
Bible.
that stuff. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
doing the Outlander series now, so that's got the Irish or that's
Oh
got the
yeah.
Scottish stuff, but yeah, it's fun. So we have a that's awesome. Congratulations. If you're watching this, please unless you have changed your settings, please identify yourself. Kelly Owen is one of my admin and she did. Welcome to Pop Chat and congratulations. And we have who I've already introduced to you, Alan Johnson. So hey Alan, thanks for joining us from the UK. The
Hello, Alan.
voice of the poets. Yeah, he's
The
here.
wonderful voice,
Yeah.
the heir to Sebastian Cabot.
Ooh, Sebastian Cab. As you were talking, actually, Steve, I was thinking to myself, he's got a radio voice, kind of. He's kind of got that radio, that, you know, little
Yeah.
tone. Had you been told that before?
Yes.
Do not say, do not say what I think you're going to say.
No, I have been told that.
Yeah, but most guys will say, yeah, I have the radio voice. I also have the radio face, is what I usually get.
Well, I don't know.
You don't have the radio
I don't.
face.
I don't. I might have dealt with some self hate in the past, but no, I don't. I don't. I'm not.
Yeah, well, positive affirmations. When I
Yeah.
did psychiatry in private practice, I used to tell my patients for every bad thought you have about you, now you got to think of two good thoughts. You'll get tired of thinking bad thoughts.
Right.
So,
It's a good
but
thing to say.
so I gave you a little project,
Yes.
and I'm anxious to hear because we did not share each other's works. And I can tell
Oh,
you this just up front. Um, I just wasn't in the. I had to force myself a little bit to write today, which is unusual. So mine are really poorly written.
oh.
So, but please, and I did the second one. You said, "Oh, I did a second one," and I was like, "Oh." So
Well,
what?
I was worried that the first one that I mentioned is a little bit you know different than it's much different than what I've read of yours so far.
So what I
The
did was I
second
said,
one's
"Let's do
maybe
it."
closer.
Yeah, I said, let's do a challenge where I challenge you. We're going to write on the same title. So pick
Right.
a title. I threw about five of them out there. He did not say a peep. And I thought, well, he didn't like any of those.
No,
So
no, I did.
then he came up with the
I
first
came
one.
up with "It's Been a Long Day."
Okay, I'm going to give this the spotlight, and you can read that if you would, sir.
Okay. It's been a long day. The clouds are slate, the light is gray. This gloom embraces me. My heart beats slow while I lie on the ground in the mud and can't move, listening to the rain pattering down, the rhythm of it on my poncho, my helmet, my rifle, like footsteps measured in a vaulted tomb. The misery, the cold, soaked in feeling far older than I am, when minutes seem like hours, and I've never been one for cold showers, are waiting to bleed out, gritting my teeth against the pain and the memory of the ambush we walked into, and I survived only to be the last to die. That's the end of that one. And I'm sorry if that one was, maybe I should have gave a trigger warning there. I hope it's.
I'm sorry. No, I muted myself. I've been talking to you. You haven't heard me. So,
Oh, I'm
um,
sorry. Yeah.
no, I do that a lot. So Alan, who is here, I actually did a tribute to him. He's a man who does not like accolades or any attention drawn to him. He likes to give attention to other people. But I did a thing where lots of people had them send me videos thanking Alan, yada yada. Did the thing together, had a live event, of which many minutes I am muted and did not know it. Know it. Yeah, so I'm like, and then everyone, so finally I looked up there and somebody said, Annette, you're muted. And when I looked back at the thing, it was just so horribly painful. But so what happened was I thought I had this on my phone, but I actually actually did it on my computer in Word, and whole thing just disappeared. So let me see if I can pop it back up.
My
I
screen
did
had
I
died
did
while
that
we were.
one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
my screen had died during the time before we started this, so I had to
Oh,
load mine all up too.
so sad, isn't it? So this is it's been a long day. Now mine is pills in comparison. It's been a long day. It's been a long day, trying and emotionally draining. The complexities of life, tears now dry, were raining. I take some time to ponder at the day's less than perfect events. Fast sped the time. Was I wise in how my moments were spent? Was I kind and caring? Was I the best possible me I could be? Did I take enough time to listen so another's viewpoint I could see? Was I selfish throughout the day, ignoring a person in need? Did I bestow the gift of a smile, a simple good gesture indeed? Getting older now, my body aches at the end of the day. Enjoying the quiet, peaceful solitude, I have little left to say. Yes, it's been a long day. A nice long bubble bath sounds great. Relax and read a novel. Make up my mind before it's too late. It's been a long day. Time is slipping, minutes evolving into hours. Languidly relaxing now, inhaling the scent of a bouquet of flowers. So that is my It's Been a Long Day. Not a very good
I
one, but
think it's wonderful that you can write something like that and then be humble about it.
thank you. I'm always fascinated if anybody appreciates my work. I'm like, really? I wrote something that you
No,
like?
that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Really.
So tell me, I'm curious because wanting to write someday a novel. What your and I know that you gave me, and I'll probably have to ask you for it again later. But I know you
Sure.
gave me a link to a book. But what I want to know is your method and how you go about writing. And actually, tell me about both poetry
Okay.
and writing a novel.
Um, with poetry, I guess we'll start off with that because that's what I've mostly done the last 3 years. I I've worked through a lot of issues, um, and
Yeah,
I have been, and I'm not ashamed to admit I've been in therapy. I've had things in my life that I should have dealt with many years ago, and it's only been in the last probably 5 that I've talked to anybody professionally. But um, anyway, I would definitely encourage people to do it. I mean, you carry things around with you. Anyway, it helped me though writing the poetry. There's things I worked out, and then it leads you if you're, I guess lucky like me. I hope I'm answering the question, by the way, but
you are.
it led me into experimenting. There's things, because like with my prose, my fiction, I write in horror. I write post-apocalyptic. I write thrillers. Um, I write some. Uh, well, anyway, I won't just list all of that. It isn't important, um, but with the poetry, I've ventured into places I never went before. Nonfiction, so things about my life.
So
I
that's kind of your cathartic outlet, then, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Um, but it's also, you're limited in how many words you use. You have to get your point across, and I mean, you could write the Odyssey if you want to,
Yeah.
I mean, but so anyway, I really found it of value, and it's opened a whole. I have Robert Bradley. I don't know if you know him. He lives in
I
your
know
state.
Robert very well.
Well,
Yeah.
he is the one that invited me to a poetry group called the Dark Poetry Society,
Hmm.
and really, I can't thank him enough for that because before that time, I wrote what I would call poetry fragments.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
So
you probably write some things that are dark, and sometimes I do too. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have all of our thoughts are not sunny and light, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it was the Dark Poetry Society, so it was okay. You're
Yeah. So,
surrounded by other people.
are you
That
allowed to? Are you allowed to put something happy on the dark poetry site, or is that
oh,
probably not
absolutely.
the
Oh,
form?
absolutely no. You can write erotica, even. You know, you can write.
Who runs that site? Who's the founder of that site?
The original founder is Amanda Amanda Jane Benton and Carl Butler, and now a guy named Jerry. Oh, now his name's going to escape me, but he
I think
took over.
I used to be a member, but I don't think I am anymore. Yeah.
A lot of people have been members there, and
Yeah.
um, it's a group that really required participation, and they wanted you to read other people's works, and I do
Mm.
think that that's a great idea,
Yeah, I think
um,
it's very,
but you
very
lose people
important.
though. You do
Yeah.
lose people though that don't want to comment on other
Yeah.
people's work. And,
And I think it's very important to do that. I am so busy usually in the background of pop. Like I have probably 60 certificates I need to get prepared and out. And maybe
yeah,
it's more than that. I don't know. I don't want to count too much, but, but, so I'm so busy in the background doing stuff or preparing for this that it's hard for me to leave lengthy comments. And then,
right.
yeah,
Well,
but,
with the
it's
size of
important.
your group, there's no way you could read everybody's work. I mean,
No,
you'd spend your
well,
life on.
I have a big admin team. I
Oh,
have
well, that's
17
great.
people, and it's all we can do just to keep up with the approvals, you know.
Yes,
And yeah, it's a large group, but I think that's what I like more, probably more than even an award. I like an award is not nice recognition. I just got one, I think, today, but I like to hear somebody's real thoughts about it. Alan Johnson paid me probably the biggest compliment I've ever had. And I think probably part of it is that it came from him. And because he very rarely, and I don't know if he's still here or not, very rarely will really tell me what he feels about, what he feels about it, my stuff. And somewhere in here, I actually saved it somewhere in my notes, but I can't find it, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, he paid me the highest compliment. Not a very lengthy comment, but something to the effect of this: of a better writer, I know of none, or something like that. I mean, I don't know that that was it, but that was like a highest compliment. I mean, I just couldn't believe he said that. So, and I don't know that he really believes that we have some really good writers in the poetry community. So, I
uh,
mean, sometimes I think that as a writer that sometimes you write something you think, "Oh, that was really good," and other times you think, "Ah, it's okay."
right. Well, it's great when you have that gotcha moment where you know that this is going to get someone when they read it. You know, it's going to grab their attention, and they'll remember
Yeah,
that, and that is a wonderful feeling, and it's hard to keep it in and not share it when you have that, when you write something
yeah.
like that.
Do you have anything like from your books that you want to read like that? Do you have some great little segment or something from a book that you want to read?
um
One of your novels?
well, i I probably do have something. If you there's this one sci-fi book I wrote, and I've had people tell me before that it had a poetic uh quality to it, and so maybe this was a start for me in that direction. But it's just a prologue, and it's called Shards, and it goes like this: Do I dream, or does someone dream for me? All that was me is buried deep beneath shifting layers of velvet darkness. I struggle to find the center, but there is no point of reference, just an aimless drift. With a little more focus, maybe I could break free, but something always stops me. Apathy plays a part, but there is something more. I face a formidable barrier of emotional pain. There are intervals of life, breaks in the nothingness, like the sun through clouds. I experience a fragment of some fantastic adventure or vision. I cling to these visions, cherishing any shred of proof that I still live, even if they are someone else's dreams. And I don't know if that was
That is, I agree with that. It is very poetic, I think. It has a very poetic quality to it. So, and the thing is I don't know how the rest of your writing is.
oh
But
well, I still could read something else, but that's up to you.
no, no,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that what I'm saying is that it's, remember what I said yesterday about the beauty of simplicity?
Yes.
Yeah. And what did I say? What was I saying I came up with? It was pretty good.
Oh,
Something about the something about the choreographer. What was it? Was it good? I need to write that down somewhere. Something about the choreography of words or something, right?
I think so. I'm
It was a
sorry.
it was a great thing.
Sorry. I'm having a blonde moment.
No, no. We discussed that, didn't we? I can be
Yes,
blonde when I want. But
you can
it
sing.
was just a one liner, and I need to take that and put that. Nope, nope, that's not it. Well, so anyway, I don't know. Why don't you sing while I look for this?
Oh, gosh. Do people
Would you
really want
sing?
to hear that? You
Would you
might lose.
sing?
You might lose viewers
I
or
have people
listeners
that
anyway.
sing. I have a couple of poets that write songs too, and when I have my open mic events, they'll sing.
Yeah.
So we're used to it. Yeah, we're used to it.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. But we did chat a lot. We chatted quite a bit. So, oh, here it is. I found it.
Okay.
Let me. Okay. I said that writing is a choreographed dance of words. That's
Right. Okay. Yeah.
writing is a choreographed dance of words. You can quote me on that if you want. Just give me credit for
It's a
it.
good one.
It is a good one. Every once in a while, I'll come up with something good. That's just like, those moments when we write something good and we know it. You're just like, oh, I can't wait till people read it. That's the nice thing about the poetry world. Have you found that you can post your stuff and you can get
Yes.
that immediate gratification of response?
Many people will respond quickly to it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned a dance of choreographed dance of words. You know what popped in my head when you said that? My most popular book, this Dead Tide, that's a zombie apocalypse book. This one woman wrote a review of it, and she said, "This is a dance of hopelessness," which I think is an accurate assessment.
Did she mean that in a good way? Or,
I believe she said I won't be reading the second book, so it's okay. I do.
there's always whatever we write or whatever anyone writes, right?
Oh, right.
Anyone. There's always going to be an audience. There's always going to be people who don't like it.
And that's what you have to
Yeah.
have a thick skin.
Yeah.
And I
I've
do.
noticed that the people critique, and I don't get it very often, but the people who critique are usually the ones that either are poor writers or you can't really find anything they've written, you know. And yet so it's kind of like, well, show me what you have to write, what you've
Yeah,
written.
well, I think some people are. I see this often. They've, I guess, had a bad reaction when they were honest with somebody about their work. And so then they don't ever want to say anything to anyone, and other
Yeah.
than, oh, I liked it or something like that. And I think that whole thing of honesty is you're helping someone if you're honest with them. if you're just being nice,
Yeah.
that's kind
Yeah.
of condescending, really. It's not,
Yeah.
there's not a, it's funny how nice doesn't have a quality of kindness to it per se.
Yeah.
It's kindness with condescension or what, I don't know. That's
But
just the
you know,
feeling
that's
that
why
I
I
get.
created pop, though. Why I
Yeah.
created the passion of poetry was that some founder of some site one time years ago when I first started on the community, and she, I don't know, like somehow how I could reworded something. I thought, but the way she did it was rude, and so
Right.
I
Which
thought,
is
fine,
not good. Yeah, you don't have to be
yeah,
rude.
yeah, I thought, fine, I'll just go build my own site. I mean, I just did it because I was irritated, off of a whim, just like boom, just build my own site.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked. I would have been happy if 3 years later I would have just had 500 people. That would have been fine, but it didn't happen. So I think then I just looked to build a site however I could to really promote, other poets and their works. But I don't know. I think that anyway, that's why I built Pop. Let me ask you a question. And I
Sure.
think actually, I'll ask you the one I said you're supposed to think about. And you said you already had the answer to, but I don't know what the answer is.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the meaning of life, right?
Yeah. What? Okay.
Um, well, I've recently, and this is just going to be a slightly oblique answer, discovered a music group called Lord Huron. And one of their songs is titled "What Do It Mean?" But what they're actually singing is there in there. One of the lines is, "What does it mean if it all means nothing?" So, I will tell you that I've creatively exploded recently just listening to their music in the background when I was writing poetry, and I can't recommend them highly enough to people to give them a try. But
Yeah. Send me
anyway,
a link later if you
I
would. I would
will. I
appreciate it.
will. Yes. But that line though leads me into, we all, it's very possible that life means nothing. And if you want to build from that, though, what it really does mean is what we value. If you have,
Yeah.
a framework of what you value in your life, if you're not someone that just does whatever you want, whatever is
Yeah.
the momentary pleasure or whatever, and you have no value system because you just do what you want, then see, life does mean nothing. But if you have this framework in your life, then that's how you build value. Mine in the last few years is being kind to others. I there's enough cruelty in this world and stuff, and I just, I try to help other writers. I try to lift people up I care about.
Yeah. I think I'm a people builder. I'm a very much a
Yeah,
people builder. I
yeah,
I love letting people know that they have importance and purpose in this life.
right. Because too many people waste huge swaths of their life
Yeah.
hating themselves or
Yeah.
being down or thinking that no one likes them, and they
Yeah.
they they actually have adopted this a core value that they are liked, that people don't like me,
Do you
and
know the
that's
poem
terrible.
Desiderata? Do you
I'm
know the
sorry.
famous poem Desiderata by Max Ehrmann? It's written in
I believe I've
1927.
read it probably,
Like go
many years
placidly
ago.
amid the noise and haste. Well, it has a piece in there I have recited to probably hundreds of people, especially when I did psychiatry. And it says this. It says, "But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. And beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here." So, it's a
Right.
great piece. Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah. So I think, what I did this weekend with the older people. I'm working in a nursing home. I was working temporarily as a RN, passing meds, which I haven't done in 30 some years, killed my feet. And I have much more appreciation. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be doing psychiatry in nursing homes, passing those people passing meds. And I'm going to think to myself, I'm going to let them know they're appreciated because I just got them doing it. But
Mm.
I'd go past the older people and I'd smile and go, I said, look at this.
Yeah.
This is a smile. I said, this is my gift to you and it's free.
That's awesome. That's great that
So,
you work with them.
yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Well, let's see. Just sent you via we transfer a little something for Steve. Steve, Alan sent you. I'm okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the stage to you. Read another one of your poems. Not the poem that the other one, but read something else of yours.
Oh,
And
something
while
previously published?
yeah, and while you're doing that, then I'm going to go get the weed transfer surprise. Alan's full of surprises. Thank you, Alan. Who said that you were not a nice man, Alan? They don't know what they're talking about.
All right. Well, this one's from my latest poetry book. It's called My Soul's on Fire. And the poem is Her Melancholy Mask. So lovely, her sadness restrained, but plain to be seen. She wears everywhere so many names, I can't be sure she's who I think she is. She's an online mystery, never to be solved by me. At least she smiles in her photograph, but never in her poetry. So
Great,
that's
thank
one.
you.
Yes.
So it is actually downloading now. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to exit the solo screen. So could you now I want you to read the other poem because you took one of the titles, the other titles I gave you, and you wrote a poem.
Okay.
And I'd like you to read that because I haven't. I'm trying to figure out what I did with my phone. There it is. So I'm going to give the screen back to you, and you can read that. And
Okay.
while I'm downloading.
It's called If Silence Could Speak. We can be eloquent without words. Something in the eyes, parted lips, maybe. The sound of breathing, a long stare, smoldering with desire. Intimate with without touching. Love, even lust will find a way. Much better with feeling, a blush, two hearts beating faster, volcanic heat, blood flowing in such moments. There's more of me than moments before there used to be. Less thought required if silence could speak. These are the ways I know to find a way.
That's great. I love it. You did great. Great, great,
Thank you.
great. Now mine is I just noticed I should have done. I didn't have time to brush it up, so I realized what I will do before I'll put this out. But this is what I got.
Okay.
It was down to the last 5 minutes, I think. So mine is if silence could speak. If silence could speak, what would it say? A lifetime without a voice, muted into submission. Infantile if it found its voice, lacking in precision. Finding its voice, it would gain power, strength, and fortitude. Would it speak kindly and softly or be aggressive with attitude? Now able to express emotion with its arsenal of words, would it try to sing a melodic tune or whistle like a bird? If silence could speak, would one with a voice now be silent? Would a once boastful and proud man now become quiet? Would silence speak just to be heard, listening to himself talk? Would he whisper and murmur to himself if he'd take a walk? I can only imagine his voice if is gentle, this man who once knew only silence. one that would not break another's heart nor be prone to violence. That's mine. Very poorly written poem.
Oh.
Not my
I
best.
do not agree that it is poorly written.
Well, I need to
And if you
kind of think.
respect me at all, you have to take that.
All right, I take it. But I do need a little cleanup on aisle 11. Oh, by the way, I was curious when you were talking because I know you used to work at Walmart for a number of years. So I wondered if you were one of those lucky people who has a bunch of stock in Walmart.
Yes, when I left, I had done fairly well.
Yeah,
I it was a good stock to buy in the '90s and up through. So I
good.
wasn't as fortunate as some of the people that were there when I first started, though. There were people there that had worked there for 20 years and never been higher than a hourly department manager, and
Right.
they had over $1 million. And I
Wow.
mean,
Isn't that
it
amazing?
was just so inspiring, and you bought into the dream. And unfortunately,
I
I
mean, did
can't
they
remember.
work there 20, 30 years also? I'm
Yeah,
sure.
they had been there 20 years roughly when I met most of those people. And I'm serious, they had never been a salaried person. And
Wow.
Walmart just gave that money to them. It wasn't a 401k, it wasn't a stock purchase plan, it was profit sharing. And it was
Wow.
such a horrific thing when they ended it because, the average person, so many of them never saves anything for themselves. They don't picture that one day there's going to be an old Steve, an old Annette
Yeah.
that's going to hate the young person that never invested. And,
Right.
you know, uh, so it was very sad for me because I did team up with store managers several times and tried to have classes on investing.
Yeah.
Um, just because these people, they're not getting anything free anymore when they stop the profit sharing. So
Mhm.
anyway, there's my thoughts on that. Unless you have
That's
another
okay. I'm just
question.
trying to figure out why I'm not seeing my download where it should be. So I don't know. I'm having problems with the download, Alan. So um, let me go back when it looks like it was downloaded, but when I go to the place where it should be, in my files, it's not showing up. So oh shoot, Alan, did you send it as a? Maybe that's why it's not showing up. Did you send it? Yeah, I sent it as an MP3. That might not show up on mine. I don't know. Let me try it again. Get your files. I'll try it one more time. So, so there's another question that I frequently ask people, and if you actually watch my pop chat, you might have already heard it. And that is, you come across Aladdin's lamp. You have three wishes. You can wish anything you want in the world. It doesn't have to be necessarily even correlated with writing. What would you wish for?
Wow, I wish I had heard. I've only listened to one of your interviews so far, unfortunately. I wish I was prepared for that one. Because that's an iffy thing. I guess if you read the Aladdin story, then everybody has that thought. Ah, gosh, I I wish I could remember this Steve Martin quote.
Oh, did
I
Steve
wish
Martin?
all the children in the world, and it's worth looking up sometime if you wanted. Um, I just it probably sounds ridiculous, but I'd wish that we could have world peace without killing each other. And I mean,
Yeah,
and
that's
we wouldn't have all this violence every day where people are dying and people are
yeah,
losing their children and are it's just terrible. So that would be one. A silly one might be that we never stopped with our space program and we were a lot further along. I'm a sci-fi person, so I
yeah.
I would
You're probably into all the sci-fi stuff when you're growing up,
Well, that's
probably.
Ray Bradbury. I was one of the early influences of me, and he was the anyway. So that's maybe another one. With that and silly, I'd probably pick something else if I had more time.
Yeah,
Ah,
I still can't find your download, Alan, for some reason. Let me see. I
yeah.
keep saying it downloads, and then like if I go to hold on a second. If I go to the internet and look at downloads, right? Um, if I go to the internet and look at downloads, it's there. Actually, that maybe I need to show it in the folder. Okay, so show it in the folder. What folder is it in? Says it's in the downloads folder. Maybe it's a, mm, hmm. All right. I don't not sure. Here, let me do this. I'm going to put it in a different place. So let me try that real quick. If I can, or copy it. I can copy it. I'm going to put it in your folder. I made a special folder for you, Stephen
You did?
Alexander North. Yeah, it is your special.
Okay.
You have your own folder
Well,
in my
that's my third
computer.
wish that I had in my
Yeah,
life.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So a lot of people say like the few people, not a lot. A couple of people have said their third wish was that they had three more wishes. So
Yes, that's always a good one.
yeah.
I think
So
they
let
tell you
me.
you can't do that though.
Okay. So it's there. Let me see if I can find it now. And I don't know. I don't know if this will. We probably lost Alan. He's probably in the UK. It's Oh Dark 100 right now. So
Oh yeah,
he's
I think
probably
6 hours ahead of us.
nappy time or something now. So let me find your pop chat, and you could be singing us a song while I'm doing this. Help me out here a little bit. Your closet singer.
Come to
You
me, and the world will be ours tonight. I
nice,
don't
nice.
know.
Do you ever do karaoke?
Yes, I have.
You have
I've done it a
nice,
couple times.
nice. So the problem is this. I think. Let's see if it'll
One
open
was
it.
an Engelbert Humperdinck song. Had a very limited selection. I was at an
Which
author
one?
party. That after the loving.
After the
So
loving.
I sing you to sleep after the loving. Normally, I'd probably want to be drunk and
I remember that.
not
No, I
really.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah, it's an old song.
So I don't know if it's the format in which you sent it because for some reason it's not loading up. I'm trying it one more time. It says an error occurred while wait a moment, then try again. So Alan, I don't know if you can send it to me like an MP4 format, but you might be texting me or something and I don't see it.
I can tell you one other thing. A friend of mine told me once that, Steve, do you know why such and such band sings that song? And I said, no. And she said, so you don't have to.
Oh no, she didn't. Oh no, she
That was
didn't.
my friend, my wonderful friend that I love very
Were
much,
you were
Jennifer.
you crushed? Were you crushed?
No, no, I was laughing. I don't take myself seriously. That's
Oh,
how I was able to go ahead and start singing when you
yeah.
asked, because I'm not
Um.
worried about it.
So what he did was this. He did an audible. He did an audible of your poem. I have it on my phone.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if I can see. The problem is when he sends it to me, I can't do anything with it. So he sent it to me. What we might be able to do is this, because since it's just an audible, let's try to do this. So I'm going to go to present and video file. Mm, it's not really a video file, is it? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so it might not. All files. Let me see if it'll open it up. Oops, looks like your video file doesn't have a video track.
Well, it's awesome
I was
that,
trying.
that you even
I was
thought to
trying
do
to
this,
trying
both
to
of you.
trick it. So present. Let me see. Slides, extra camera, video file, share screen. Maybe if I wonder if I shared the screen to try and get that. We transfer. Sent you a MP3 Windows entire screen. But I don't know if you can hear it that way. So, okay, so I'm here. Now I'm going to, not my, well, Microsoft Edge. No, it's not going to do it either. So window, that's that. Entire screen. All right, let me try to see if I can get it off the internet now. I don't know if it's going to let me do this or not, or if you can hear it. We'll try to play it. These are now people are saying she's really technically okay. So open file. Can you see my screen?
I
The
can only
Windows.
see your face,
Okay,
you and I.
it's a Windows media thing. Hear it?
From the southeast.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I could hear something.
Okay. Um.
There's a little breeze from the southeast. I'm listening to Bedroom's song echoing in my head. Although no radio is playing, sitting with two little dogs.
So can you hear that at all?
Sure.
Oh, you could hear it.
Yes, I could.
Okay. So we'll just play it. We'll play the whole thing. I'll start over again. So it's about 40. No, it's 55 seconds.
Okay.
There's a breeze from the bedroom. Although no radio is playing, sitting with two little dogs in the shade of a boat ramp pavilion, watching people, watching three matinees play. The dogs are curious during this brief pause before we go home. Brief because someone with another dog had the temerity to want to join us. But Sancho is everything but tolerant, loud in his displeasure. 7 pounds of fury easily triggered, and that's it for me. We called it a day. Time for an old man and little dogs to go home and wait for Carrie.
Oh, did you hear it?
Yes. Yeah, I remember
You heard
that
the whole
day.
thing?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you,
it was a little
Alan.
garbled at the beginning, but Alan, that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alan is a big
Thank
dog
you to
lover
you too,
himself.
Annette.
He's got Willow, his Rottweiler dog.
Oh,
He loves Willow more than anything in the world. He says also in your messenger MP3, and he sent it again as MP4. But that's okay. I'll send it to you later. I think we kind of listened to it already, Alan. But thank you.
that was wonderful, really.
Thank you for all your work. He's a good man. I
Yeah.
know he tries to fool us, but he's a good man. So, so do you think that writing is a learned thing? Do you think it's a gift? Do you think that people who are really excel at it and are very stellar at it are more gifted?
You know, I wonder, I can't say that, I can't answer for everyone, but I do believe that if you have a love of books, that's one of the requirements. If you really love to read, and then you somehow couple that with a desire to write your own stories, that I think that that's the basic ingredients for.
Yeah, I think reading, or I haven't been reading. I've been listening to a lot of Audible books. I've been trying to really get my mind in because I travel a lot. So I thought, well, I need to be able to read more, but I don't have time. So I just, been listening to Audible books. But I think that is, yeah, I think it's really important. and then
Yeah.
everyone has their own style. And do you see? I'm just trying to think. The thing is you write things that are very imaginative because you do, thrillers, you do sci-fi, you do zombie stuff. So I mean, your
Yeah.
imagination, yeah, your mind must check out a lot. Boom, because it's got to go places. It's got to go places where no one's ever gone before.
Well, to me, it was an escape for me. Whether it's reading or writing, and if there's been times where I was doing something that was, I horrible, where I moment to moment I needed to check out. I needed an escape, and you could say, I wasn't in combat in the army, but there were moments that were very, very miserable, and
Yeah,
I and that was one way I would write or I would read if I had the time. And
yeah,
so anyway, that's I think a lot. I I can't tell you that first little short story I wrote was because of something like that. But you and I talked last night, chatted about bullying, and I can tell you that I definitely wanted to escape that, and I had it happen to me, and I'm not going to be embarrassed to say it. Or sometimes kids are cruel with the new guy or the new girl, or for whatever reason they target you, and I don't know if you really wanted to go that direction with this.
no, that's fine. I mean, I was bullied horribly as a child, so
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
Well, but you're shy, and you want to, maybe you don't have friends, and so there's your best friend
Yeah,
is your dog and your book, your cat, your family, but you have this
yeah,
limited refuge. But
yeah. I did I share that with you? I didn't. Did I share the Ballad of Ned with you?
you did.
Yeah. So that one, it's just it's this great story. I can see it in my mind on the screen someday. I want to see it as a movie. I can see him, so I can
Yeah.
see him going up to the chalkboard and do all this stuff. But bullying is a great, really a subject matter that is very important to me. Actually, when I went and wrote the children's book, and I went to my grandchildren's school and donated, I mean, I gave away almost a couple hundred books and went to the classrooms, read the book, and then I also recited the Ballad of Ned.
Yeah.
And so, but I can remember there was this little boy next to me, pretty close to me. He was kind of this big kid, and he couldn't give me eye contact. And I thought, I bet he's a bully. I bet he's a bully.
Well, what's sad too is I found out that several of the bullies I knew, they had severe problems of their own, and you don't really
Yeah.
know what's motivating somebody to do that. And
Well, usually I think
so it's kind of a horrible thing all the way around when that happens. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's like in adulthood, while people are mean and hateful,
yeah,
is it other people's insecurities, and they try to knock you down to make themselves look a little bit better,
yeah,
and somehow inflates them a little bit. But I mean, I always used to say, children can be so cruel, but I'm sorry, where do they learn it? Adults can be cruel, and that's where they learn it is from adults.
yeah,
So I think the best thing we can do is be a good example. I mean, people who, and I'm not condoning at all any type of violence or crime, but a lot of the massive shootings are people who, have a vendetta because they've been picked on or, somehow ostracized um, and I can't say that I could, of course, condone it, but I can understand having been bullied, what might have pushed them over the edge.
oh yeah,
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult. Mine was I went to so many different schools, and I was always a new kid.
yeah.
So, and then the boys would like me, and then the other girls wouldn't like that, and I didn't care. I just wanted a friend. I didn't,
Right.
yeah, but
But kids, what do they know?
yeah, I think being socially awkward sometimes and feeling like you don't fit in is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Mine started. I was my third school in fourth grade, so I literally had no friends left. And I recently I wrote a poem about it, but I the words still haunt me that I said to this kid that started the whole thing. I don't know if you want to hear it briefly. I'm not going to read the
yes,
poem because I'd have to
no,
look it up. But
please do.
so this third school, and the only person I know there is my aunt, and I don't know that I ever got to even see her there because she wasn't my teacher. But they dropped me off at this classroom. There's no teacher in there, and it was a huge classroom. There was actually 4 classes that were all open to each other, but there's no teacher there when I go in, and the only chair that's open or desk is at the front. And I'm walking in there, and all these kids are looking at me, and I sit down, and I turn to the first kid that's right next to me, and I said to him, "I won't mess with you if you don't mess with me."
Ah,
That kid, he burst into laughter, and oh, it was over for
then
me.
then were
I
you
was so
friends? Were you friends with them then?
never. But
Never.
I saw him on Facebook the other day,
Ah,
and I sat there and I go, what am I going to do? Am I going to say anything? Because I haven't seen him since, well, fifth grade. He went to a different school.
yeah.
Fortunately, because that ended a huge chunk of the bullying for me. Because then I was somebody that just nobody knew or anything. So anyway, I got lucky after that. But um, I sat there though, and I decided,
Mm,
I'm just going to say, I, I typed his name or whatever. I saw a post with him on it. I
yeah.
said, "I remember you."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he apparently did remember me. He was very friendly, but he didn't apologize. And now
Yeah.
who's looking for an apology from a fifth grader?
Yeah, it's
You
funny
know?
because you sit there and look at the people who bullied you. Like I ran into a couple of them later on. I
Yeah,
was working in the ER, and these one girls would bully me, and they came to my house one day, and they were trying to break in. They were going to beat me up, and it was horrible. And I was so scared. But I ran into a couple of them in the ER years later. I'm an ER nurse, and they didn't even finish junior high. They got pregnant. They were druggies. You know what I mean? All their life.
yeah,
And then another one I ran in. Then there's another place I went to school, and there was 2 girls that used to pick on me. Well, it was really the one. The one was guilty by association more, but that one was very quiet and sweet, really, and the other one was just nasty.
the
And
instigator.
they would spit in my hair, pull my hair, kick my
Oh,
chairs, do all that. And we went to a skating rink, and used to be a good skater, believe it or not. But we went to skating rink, and I befriended an older girl that's a couple of years older, and she was a rough, tough girl,
yeah,
and she went up to him and told them that if they laid one hand on me, they'd have to deal with her, so they didn't pick on me anymore. Then they wanted to become my friends. So
yeah.
years
That's
later,
what happens.
yeah,
Yeah,
years later on Facebook, the shy one got in touch with me, and I asked what the other one was doing. The rough, tough one. You know what she did? You know what she did? This was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. She
what'd you
was
do?
a roller derby queen.
Really?
She was still bullying.
Well,
I thought that was funny. Here we go, Alan. Parents must educate as the next generation will carry forward their knowledge. Exactly, they must. And then look what he says, Steve. This is Alan still. Annette bullies me. That is so. It is just the opposite.
we're going to have to do an intervention.
We're gonna have to do an intervention. That's right. Poor Alan. Maybe we should write about that.
I'll advocate for
The
you, Alan.
the trials and tribulations of Alan Johnson. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
whenever it happens, use the Steve light, like the Batman spotlight. Just shine it,
Use
and
use a
I'll be
Steve.
there to save you, Alan.
Oh, use a Steve light. He's going to send you a special light with his little Steve light, and you can just shine that, and he's going to save you, Alan, from me. It's exciting. That's
Hands
funny.
across the water, brother.
Uh, he's
Here's a
oh,
little.
look at now. I was going up the stairs with my nightcap on and my lit candle.
That sounds like the beginning of a gothic novel.
Scrooge, he's Scrooge, bah humbug. There, I picked on you a little bit, Alan. No, Alan's beloved amongst us, so we all love Alan. Um, I was going to tell you though. Sometimes I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding with people, and sometimes the power of our words. Words have a lot of power,
Yeah.
and they have the power to help and to heal or to hurt and destroy. But the other day, I was at work just this weekend, and there's a new guy there. He's like a young, kind of looks like a Hispanic kid. He's young. He's got to be in his 20s. Well, his jaw was really swollen here, his jaw. And to me,
Mhm.
it looked like I did when I had a tooth abscess. And I'm a nurse practitioner, so I'm thinking to myself, I want to help him. If he's got a tooth abscess, I'd write a prescription for him.
Right.
But so I asked him if he had a tooth abscess. Now, I don't even know him. I've never talked to him before. And he turned around and he looked at me. He said, it would be nice if you'd ask me rather than try to guess what's wrong with me. And he said, I was born that way. It's a deformity. And I
Oh,
said, you're exactly right. That was very rude of me, and I apologize.
wow.
Yeah.
It's not something though that you would probably think that to begin with, without it
Well,
happening. You know.
yeah, but I need to be put in my place because, it's like, when I used to work in the ER and the resident comes up to me one day, I got the scrubs on, and he says, my God, girl, when are you going to have that baby? And I was like,
Mm.
I'm not
That
pregnant.
happens way too many times to women.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It's
that's very
horrible.
awkward.
But I think that, yeah, we have to be careful. So, when you write your novels, how many times are you infusing a little bit of your reality of life in there?
Oh, when I wrote the novels, there, quite a few of them. There might be a little bit of me in each character. You never know.
Yeah.
Would
But
I'd, I'd almost have to.
I'm sure there's other people in your life that you've encountered that kind of are kind of,
Well, there was one book that I had two different versions of myself in it. There was one that got an early divorce, and then there was the other one that was still in hell. um,
yeah.
anyway, I don't know. That was probably bad to admit that, but at least you don't know what book it
But
was.
don't you think that when you're imagining things, that sometimes you have maybe perhaps somebody in mind that you've come
Oh,
across in life?
yes. You mean like
Yeah.
somebody that you would like something if you're indulging your secret doctor evil or whatever, something bad happened to them. Yeah.
Well, it would be a time for you to actually be able to manipulate your story to how you want it to end, too, right? Like if
Yeah. It's
you could.
amazing though how often these characters take on a life of their own, and I can't tell you that all my novels are tightly plotted and that I always followed what my plan was. Or
Is it hard for you to keep up with the characters? Do you have some way that you keep up with all the characters? Because sometimes they give some very specific information, and then later on they'll say something. I wonder how they keep up with
oh
track of all of that.
yeah, those Dead Tide books, the zombie ones, I had to keep notes because
Yeah.
there's one of the complaints about them was there was too many characters, and
Yeah, I can tell you a friend of mine who writes. He
yeah.
writes novels and short stories and stuff. And I was on a writer's thing where they critique you.
Hmm.
And I didn't find it very helpful and beneficial for myself because I didn't agree with most of the critiques.
Ah,
I know.
that is something I wanted to touch on, though.
Huh?
That's something I wanted to touch on.
That I
I
need.
well, no, not with you. but per se, I don't want to interrupt you though. I'd rather you finish that thought.
No. Well, what he did was, and I didn't critique anybody or say anything until, and he was my friend. He's the one that invited me to the group. He's
Yeah.
still my friend, I think. But he said, so he read like his first chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, one of the things I said to him was, you know, you were talking about the food and them eating. Why couldn't you been more descriptive? Like had mashed potatoes and gravy because I'm really hungry. Anyway, I teased about that. But one of the things that he did was he introduced in that first chapter 8 or 10 people, and
That's a lot.
it's too much for my mind. I
Right.
said I said you need to introduce them and build their characters so I can get to know them, because if you're just shooting the names out there and stuff, I can't get a sense of who they are, you know?
Right. Right. Um, I One of the things that helped me the most when I was first starting out writing, I was at USF and in a creative writing course, and there was probably 40 other potential writers in there. And, frequently they do make comments that maybe you don't agree with and you don't want to implement the change they're suggesting.
Right.
But it did help me build a thicker skin where I wasn't,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
offended.
because really these people may not, they don't know you, and they're just telling you what they like or what they
Yeah.
think would work better. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is helpful, I mean, it's not. And the good thing is when you do have an editor later, um,
They
because
will rip you
I have
apart
had
for
that
sure.
joy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and plug one of my editor friends, Felicia Sullivan. Wonderful lady to work with. But there was times we bumped heads. There was things she wanted to do, and I would say, "Well, I don't know that," but
Yeah.
ultimately, when I listened to her, it was definitely a good thing, and I don't think I disagreed with her most of the time.
What
So,
I thought was interesting, or what I think is interesting, is that a couple of times. So in that class or whatever I went to, or that thing, one thing I found was interesting is I read a poem of mine, and their interpretation of it was totally different than I intended, actually.
no, you're right.
Um,
Yeah, people don't
but
always
there's
get
two
it.
or three of them that thought that it's a great poem too, and I love it. Alan did it for me, and I was trying to think of the name of it, but it's this great poem, and they thought it was talking about somebody's kind of they're dying, and it wasn't about that. So I thought it was interesting that more than one of them thought about that. And then
That's happened
another
to me
thing,
several times where people
yeah,
see it from a different
see a different
perspective.
anger, yeah. And then my life coach would just like sit there. I got her into poetry now; she's writing, but she would just sit there, close her eyes, and then tell me about what I just said. And she'd have this deep interpretation where my mind never even went before, but I wrote it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Yeah.
it's interesting. Have you ever written anything and then, because I had one poem like that, have you ever written anything and then when you thought you knew it was good, but part of it didn't quite make sense to you? And then later
Um,
on it did?
oh, okay, so like a subconscious thing
Yeah.
guided you, and that you saw it
Yeah.
later. Yeah, I frequently when I write poems, I don't know where it's going to end for sure.
Yeah, me
I
too.
will admit that, and
Yeah.
there's times where I do know where I want to end, but there's times I don't, and I've been surprised a number of times where I end up.
Yeah.
That one that I wrote on our topic together, I didn't know it was going there. I took part of something that did happen to me. I laid in the rain all day one day. We weren't allowed to move in the army. We're laying on the muddy ground with the rain the whole day, and I might even have been in those suits where you're wearing the mask and the oversuit,
Yeah.
and it was just complete. There's just like I'm talking about complete misery, where it's just horrible, and you're trying to make it through it, and you just go away in your head. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
It's
There's
it's
a
like being in prison. I think that's got to be one of the only ways that you could sit in a cell 23 hours in a day, and you get your 1 hour outside. I mean,
I've done some prison work before. And working in prison is like being in prison for 8 hours a day. So
oh, oh,
just,
I can
yeah.
imagine.
It was interesting. I have all kinds of stories. But anyway, so a couple years ago, I had a friend that's been my friend since, I don't know, third grade. But I wrote a story. No, I didn't write a story. I'm sorry. I wrote a poem. It was called Her Demons. And I wrote it, and then I read it afterwards, and I thought, it didn't quite make sense to me entirely. And then later that day, I found out she died. And then all of a sudden it made sense. I thought, oh, it's about her. It's about my
Right.
friend, you know. And then I had a lot of guilt about it and did a video poem. It's on YouTube somewhere called The Day the Heavens Cried. Because I had this guilt about how I didn't take her last call. Yeah, so we kind of work our way through. It's our therapy, isn't it? Poetry is
Oh
such a
yeah.
therapeutic thing. Yeah. And it's my desire somehow, and I know Kelly has talked about this. I've been talking about this for 3 years, ever since I get in poetry, is I really think there needs to be kind of a poetry revival, especially in our country. We don't appreciate it. I've asked hundreds of people, I ask people almost every day, do you like poetry? And most of them, probably 80%, say, no, not really. And I
Yeah.
say, well, you like songs, and that's poetry and music. So, and I say, I don't like all poetry,
Right.
but I like some. But I really think that, I don't want it to become this lost art. And I don't think that I think, poetry is just this great expression. It shouldn't be any different than any kind of art form. It shouldn't go out of vogue. I've heard
Right.
people say, "Oh, rhyming's out of." No, no poetry should be. It's free. But then
Right.
there's sometimes. Have you ever heard poetry and you think, like, went to a poetry event and you think, is that really a poem? It doesn't sound like a poem.
Yeah.
It sounds like more like a rant or a statement. I mean, you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen that often.
But have you thought to yourself, is that really poetry?
Well, I guess it depends on if you found any value in it at all. You know what I mean? Because there is that where you're totally unfettered and there's not any form
Yeah.
to it per se. But is it poetry still? I don't know.
Because there's something I go to, and I hope nobody watches this. but but the poetry that is presented is always just political. And it might be talking about Senator so and what so did in this or this amendment, or you know what I mean. It's all,
Yeah,
and I think it's
I'd
just
have a
like
hard
reading
time
the
with that.
newspaper. I don't think it's really poetry. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, I really feel politics is one of the main things that divide us, and I think anytime that was in poetry, you're going to lose half the people one
Yeah,
way or the other. When you write it, so you have to. If you write that type of thing, I think you have to have that mindset that
people are
there's
going
going
to
to
come
be
after
people
you.
that read this once, and then they're going to decide I don't like him or I don't like her, and
Yeah.
that's it. They never read you again. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it worth it to write political poetry? I
I
don't know.
had a poetry friend a few months ago say, talking about politics. I said, I don't like politics. I don't like politicians. The last time I voted, I flipped a coin. That's how I voted. I don't trust any of
Wow.
them. And he said, write about it, right? And I said, no, I don't want. So that night I wrote one. It's not a very nice one, called The Politician. And so it's the only one I'll ever write. But it
Yeah.
tells you how I feel
Well, I'm not one
about
that
it.
would decide that I wouldn't be your friend over politics.
Say that
I'm not that.
again.
I'm not somebody that decides that people aren't my friend because of
Oh,
their
I don't
politics are
either.
different than mine. I,
Yeah.
I, that whole mindset that you're either with us or you're against us. Well, people change, and if you keep an open mind, that person that you said, you're not my friend anymore, well, if they had just waited or just decided that there are things worth being friends about, then you might be
Yeah.
on their side or thinking the same way they do someday at some point. And was it worth telling them, you know, get out of my face or whatever? I mean, I guess if you're being hateful, I understand, why people can't stand that. I understand passionate is good. Hateful, if there's hard to find redeeming things in hate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hate's not good. Yeah, I was watching. Actually, it was a food thing. I it's the only time I watch TV. Usually is when I eat. And a lot of times I watch it, but it's that really pretty lady that's on the Food Network a lot, and she's like from India, and she looks very exotic. I can't remember her name was what it is. Begins with a P. Anyway, she has this thing where she travels all over America, looking at cultural foods and so forth. So she started in, is it El Paso? That must be in Texas, right? El Paso.
Yeah, El
She,
Paso's in
she
Texas.
started in El Paso, and it's the border. There's a border there,
Right.
and she talked to one of the ladies that lived there who was Hispanic, and it was very interesting actually because the lady said, we have this fence now, and this used to be an open area, and she said you have to understand that this area that's cut off now, we that used to be part of our land, right?
Yeah.
That used to be part of our land over there. So it was kind of taken away from us or whatever, in war or whatever. So that was part of our land. So we have that connection to it. And now we tend to connect, with food and things like that. And, so it really, I think, put a different perspective on it, like this is the line, don't cross it, go over it. Well, you're telling people not to do that they had that freedom before, and
Right.
now you're telling them that they can't. So it's politics. It's all difficult. Oh, Alan said something about a woman and a baby. Yeah, don't ask when she's pregnant. We know that, Alan. But any words of wisdom that you can give to um, people about writing? If it's something they want to pursue, they might be yet a novice.
Well, that the book that I mentioned to you the other day, it won't make you a writer, but it
Right.
will help the starting out writer to be a better one, I think. It's
Yeah.
called this is one thing I tell a lot of people is it's called creating short fiction, and even though it says short fiction, it applies to novels. It applies
Okay.
anyway. It was the book we used in that USF course, creative writing course, and it's
Yeah.
by a man named Damon, Damon, knight, like a knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And I can't recommend it enough. I wrote a review of the book in there, and it's on Amazon, and you
Yeah.
can get it very cheaply. Um, it has writing exercises in it that will help you. And anyway, that's one thing I would definitely recommend to anyone that's considering writing.
Um, I had a let's see the critique I had. Remember that the one I sent you, the willow one, the willow tree, a
Oh
short
yes,
story. Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, one of my friends, my poetry friends that I interviewed, said this about it. He said, I thought it was great, but the only thing I wondered about was this. Why do we not know more about her and where she came from? Or why didn't you develop her character anymore? Or, you know what I mean? I said, well,
Right.
I guess it was just a short little thing. And I said, if I was going to, make it bigger or make it, a novella or whatever they call them, then I would do that. And I already knew kind of where I'd take that. But I thought that was interesting.
Well, what the impression I've got is a short story that Annette wrote that she shared with me, and it's the size of what they call flash fiction,
Yeah.
and it's usually like 500 words or less.
Yeah.
on something like that. And I thought it read fine for that. You can't go into great
Yeah.
detail about a character when you have the limited. So if your goal was something short for people to read that they could read on their break or something, then it fits in there. And there's whole short story anthologies out there where it's stories like that, flash
Yeah.
fiction pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reader's Digest, they probably are usually regular sized short stories, but
Yeah. Does Reader's Digest still? I didn't know
I
this.
think it's still around. My dad actually a couple of years ago gave me a couple of books he ordered that
Do
were
you? That's
Reader's
something I
Digest.
didn't ask you. Was this?
Oh,
I didn't ask you whether or not you had other writers in your family.
yes, yes, I have a cousin that was writing a book, um, Amanda Cross Parsons, but
Huh.
I don't think she published it. She finished it, but I don't think she published it. Um, and then my grandfather was writing a novel, and both my dad's parents had college degrees. Um, and my grandfather gave it to my mother to read what he'd written, and he'd used so many big words that weren't common
Yeah.
that she actually told him. I'm glad you brought this up because it further illustrates what we've talked about earlier. Um, when she criticized it, she wasn't being cruel,
No.
but she
No.
told him, the average person, you're going to lose them because the words
Yeah.
are $10 words.
I check out.
So
There's
yeah,
poems. There's poems that are
and,
like that. I check
and
out.
instead of
Yeah.
even considering it or changing it or something, he threw it away.
Yeah.
He quit.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that I think that there is, I mean, you can put an occasional big word, but if you give me something I have to read and I have to look up words all the time, it is not a pleasant experience for me.
Yeah,
It just needs to flow. You know what I mean?
right.
And so, what I said to you, and I've said over and over again, is that it takes more of a word artist to be able to take simplistic words and to mote and to move and to describe with just simplistic language. To me, it takes a real artist to do that. Um, than it does, to do anything. So, but what do I know? I'm
Oh
new.
yeah. Well,
What do I know?
I can tell you one other thing. I have an aunt that's an accomplished painter.
Really?
Yes, her husband actually was edited my first short story, um, which was cool. He apologized for bleeding on me. He wrote with red ink on the thing, and he called it bleeding on me. But she actually has taught painting. She does oil. She does the watercolors. Um, but he was one of the first underground architects. So green, right? And
Wow.
he's got houses and buildings all over the country that he designed or whatever. And he built her an underground art gallery in Brewster, Mass, out on the Cape. And it's
Yeah.
pretty neat that it's
Did you say?
part of
Did you
it's
say it
covered
was
with huh?
underwater? Underwater?
Underground.
Underground?
Underground. Yeah.
Wow.
He would like this particular art gallery, part of it is covered, with it's definitely underground. There's grass growing on top and
Yeah.
trees and
Yeah. I made some
anyway,
really
she's
bad. I made some really bad art recently.
oh yeah,
I did the pour painting. Well, I don't know. It's okay. I actually am. Oh, look at now. This I just happen to have because I never put it away yet. I'm artsy craftsy. So
yeah.
this is my Christmas tree I made out of
Wow.
jewelry.
Well, that's certainly very well
I
done.
don't know how to do it. So see, it's really made out of, let's see, flowers.
Yeah.
Actually, if I took the camera and did this, you'd probably see it better. So
Well, don't keep shaking it.
I'm just trying to.
That's really cool.
It's got all of this jewelry in it,
Yeah.
and recently I went and had given a friend of mine a bed and breakfast. She watches this every once in a while. I gave her probably 5 years ago a very ornate. I'll send you a picture later.
Okay.
picture that I made, counted cross stitched under magnification. Took me probably a year and a half, and she had it in her attic for 5 years.
Oh,
So I went over to her bed and breakfast on Thanksgiving time, and I took her a different sled that I made, and took back my picture.
well, if she's just going to put it in an attic,
Yeah, I thought that I did too much work to just be in the attic.
yeah,
So
you should show it
yeah,
off.
but now I'm artsy craftsy. But I did try to do some pour painting, and I'm going to do it until I get it right. I'll send you some pictures of my pour abstract artwork. That's the thing about pour painting; you just pour it all. I mean, it's just like it's supposed to be abstract.
Yeah.
But I'm in my mind, I'm Monet, but here I'm Picasso. So, but
I would take either one of those.
it's been so great to talk to you. We are an hour and 32 minutes. You might have the pop chat. Um, this might be the record. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, I
But
certainly enjoyed our time.
yeah, but thank you so much. Any parting words? Anything you'd like to say before you leave?
I'm just really grateful that you took the time and you wanted to talk with me.
Oh,
I hope that there was some value where maybe somebody will be helped, with writing, and whether it's poetry or fiction writing or.
of course. But I really thank you. We've only known each other for a couple of days, but already we're fast friends. So
Yes.
it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I thank you for agreeing to come. Love your stuff. Look forward to actually purchasing one of your books. You got to remind me which one I should do first.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'm
and
going
then
to need
I
to tell
will.
me which one of yours to buy first, too.
Oh, well, none of them. Buy my next one that's supposed to come out. I don't know when. I haven't started working on it yet, but I have all these poems I need to do. Have you done a poetry book yet?
Yes, I have three. I have three.
Good job. Let me see
Yeah.
them.
There's I Held the Sun.
Okay, that one. That's one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's The Dark Joy of Despair.
Nice. Nice.
And then there is My Soul's on Fire,
Wow.
inspired by the Bad Company song The Sky is Burning.
So they look like they're thicker books. How many poems do you have in them?
Oh, the first one is the biggest one. It has, I think, over 150.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that was
Kudos.
2 years worth of poetry in that one.
Wow.
And then the others are smaller. But,
So one thing I didn't ask you is I didn't ask you how your family and loved ones feel about your writing and your poetry and your not you being, a writer in
I,
general.
I think I surprised my parents. They were a little skeptical when I first started. They didn't discourage me, but they were more focused on climb the ladder at Walmart. And I was able to go so far as a manager there, and then I said, "No, I can't go any farther. I don't want to."
Are your
But
parents still alive?
my dad is,
Oh, nice.
and yeah, and though very proud of me, both of them, and they
Yeah.
both. I got a book signing in my hometown here at the most famous bookstore, I believe, in Florida, called Haslam's Bookstore, which is now gone. But I signed books there, and it's where it all started for me. When I was 11 years
Wow.
old,
Wow.
I went in there for books. And anyway, I thank you for asking me that. And my daughter, she's kind of supportive. She's not really a book reader. She loves horses. But Carrie, of course, my girlfriend, is very supportive.
Yes, of course. It's nice that you can support each other.
Yeah, and I have many
Probably
very good friends that have been very supportive.
say that again.
I have many good friends that have been very supportive too.
Yeah, that's nice. It's wonderful. I have an aunt who's very support. I have a lot of people who are supportive. My children could care less, but I have an aunt in Florida that is
Oh,
very supportive. She's my biggest fan. She lives in near Jacksonville. She used to live in St. Augustine, but she recently had me write a poem for her,
Yeah.
She came up with a title because she feels like she's not going to be here much longer. It's called "I'm Coming Home,"
Oh.
and I'll send you the video. Alan did a video of it. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Alan said good night, by the way. But
Good night,
so
Alan.
I've kept you. He said good chat. Take care. Thank
You
you,
too.
Alan. Thank you for doing that, and I'll send you the audio later as
Thank
well.
you so much for that. Also, yes, both of you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's been a pleasure and nice getting to know you. Love and blessings to everyone. Um, Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for gracing us with your presence. So nice to meet you and find more out about you, Steve. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, Annette. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Good night.